It is incredibly easy to get distracted by the aesthetics of a project.
Oh, absolutely. The
Well,
fun stuff.
right. I mean, you see it all the time when someone launches a new venture. A team will obsess for like weeks over their font choices
Yeah.
or the exact shade of blue on a landing page.
Or the cleverness of their ad copy.
Yes, they genuinely believe that that is the heavy lifting. But today's deep dive into a stack of instructional notes, which are actually meant for senior marketing strategists, it hits with a massive reality check right out of the gate.
It really does. Doesn't pull any punches.
No, not at all. It basically says getting your keywords and your copy perfectly dialed in without knowing the underlying math of your unit economics. Well, it's just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Which is such a striking image, honestly, mainly because it implies the ship is already going down.
Yeah.
You just haven't felt the water around your ankles yet. And that is really the crux of what we are examining today.
Exactly.
These strategic notes serve as like a survival guide for the digital economy. They pull back the curtain on the unit economics of advertising.
Revealing the hidden math.
Right, the math that dictates whether an enterprise actually thrives or just quietly bleeds to death while the founders think everything is completely fine.
So our mission today is to give you the tools to actually steer the ship, to grasp the mechanics of business survival in an auction-based ecosystem. And this material starts with a total paradigm shift.
A pretty aggressive one, too.
Yeah, the opening argument is effectively a slap in the face to traditional marketers. It demands that we start bragging about high click-through rates because, high click rates don't make payroll.
They really don't. You can't deposit a click.
Right. The only question that matters is whether you're actually making money. It requires a complete abandonment of how we normally treat ad platforms like Google or Meta.
And what's fascinating here is the core philosophy being outlined, which is termed the investor mindset. To really grasp it, you have to look at the default behavior.
Which is usually pretty passive.
Incredibly passive. Most operators treat digital ads like a utility bill, like paying for water or electricity.
Yeah, they just pay it and forget it.
Exactly. They allocate a budget, pay it every month, maybe complain about the rising costs, and then just blindly hope the metaphorical lights stay on. It is an entirely passive relationship with their capital.
It's just a line item on the spreadsheet labeled marketing expense.
But you cannot treat an auction platform like a utility. You have to treat the platform the way a venture capitalist treats a startup portfolio.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right. A VC doesn't just hand over a check and casually hope for the best. They demand a highly specific return on investment. They calculate risk and reward at a molecular level.
And they ruthlessly cut funding to anything underperforming.
Absolutely.
I absolutely love the analogy used to drive this home in the notes. Every single dollar you hand over to Google must be viewed as an employee.
Yes. The dollar employee.
Yeah. Picture sending this tiny green employee out into the digital world, and their sole job, their entire reason for existing, is to drag back $2 more.
And if they fail to do that,
they are fired. You do not keep paying them out of habit.
That visualization makes the stakes so tangible. But, holding those dollar employees accountable requires you to know exactly what they're bringing back. Guesswork will bankrupt you here.
Right. You have to know the numbers.
Which brings us to the absolute baseline math every operator needs to memorize. There are 3 core numbers that rule your operational life. And the first is AOV, or average order value.
Now, wait, let's pause here because I'm sure you're listening to this and thinking, this sounds elementary.
Sure.
Like anyone running a business knows the sticker price of what they sell. But the trap here is failing to account for what we call day one cart expansion.
This is where so many get it wrong.
Let's look at a practical example. Say you sell a nutritional supplement and the bottle costs $50. Most marketers will confidently declare their AOV is $50.
But they are wrong.
Totally wrong. We have to look at the total cart value at the point of the first transaction, the actual cash collected on day one.
Right.
So if the average customer adds a second bottle at checkout and pays a $10 shipping fee, your true AOV is $110. That $110 is the floor of the business.
And establishing that floor is critical, because if your AOV floor is too low, you simply cannot afford the entry fee to play in the search auction.
You're just out.
Yeah, you will be mathematically priced out before your ads even go live. But as important as AOV is, it only tells half the story.
Right, because revenue is vanity.
Exactly. The illusion of revenue gets completely stripped away when we introduce the second number that rules your life, which is gross margin percentage.
Here.
Sometimes people refer to it as the marketing margin.
Okay.
Because like you said, revenue is what you brag about at dinner parties. Margin is the reality of what you actually get to keep.
Let's break down the precise math on that. Because the margin calculation is where so many operators just like leak cash without realizing it.
Oh, they hemorrhage it.
Say you sell a physical product for $100. The cost to manufacture that product is $30. A novice business owner will look at that and say, hey, I have a 70% margin.
They think they have $70 of pure breathing room to play with in the ad auction.
But they don't.
They don't. They are forgetting the hidden friction points of commerce. To find your true margin, you have to deduct the cost of goods, sold your COGS, plus shipping, fulfillment, and all the invisible transactional fees.
Right.
So let's say shipping costs you $10. Then there's a crucial insight many overlook: the credit card processing fee.
The silent killer of profitability.
It really is. Credit card fees generally hover around 3%. And because it happens automatically in the background through a payment processor,
You never see it.
right, you never had a physical check for it.
Yeah.
So it is incredibly easy to ignore. But on a $100 sale, that is $3 gone instantly.
Let's do the math on that.
Okay, so you take your $100, you subtract the $30 COGS,
We're at 70,
minus the $10 for shipping,
down to 60.
and minus the $3 credit card fee.
Right, so your true margin is not 70%, it is 57%.
Exactly. And a true senior strategist always builds these fluctuating costs into their models. You use a conservative margin for your calculations to create a safety net.
Because if you don't,
Well, relying on that theoretical 70% number instead of the realistic 57% is exactly how people get burned. They log into their ad accounts, start making bidding decisions, and end up spending money they simply do not have.
which leads to a very specific, very dangerous trap that the notes talk about. If you ignore that true 57% margin and only look at the gross revenue flowing in, you become incredibly vulnerable to dashboard manipulation.
The revenue mirage.
Yes, the revenue mirage. This is terrifying because it happens when everything looks like it is going perfectly.
It's insidious.
Picture a business owner logging into their Google Ads dashboard. They check a metric called ROAS, return on ad spend. The dashboard is glowing green.
Everyone loves a green dashboard.
Right. It proudly reports a 5x ROAS. For every dollar spent, the platform generated $5 in sales. The owner is popping champagne thinking they've cracked the code.
Because on paper, a 5x return feels like a massive victory. The dollar employees appear to be doing their job perfectly.
But the reality is often completely different. It's like walking out of a casino bragging to your friends that you just won $500 at the blackjack table.
Nice.
But you're completely omitting the fact that you hit the ATM for $2,000 earlier that night to fund the streak.
Ouch. Yeah.
You are hyper-fixated on the payout, entirely blind to the net reality of the evening.
And the math proves exactly how dangerous this dashboard illusion can be. Let's run the numbers on that glowing dashboard you mentioned.
Let's do it.
Okay, Google tells you that you generated $10,000 in revenue. Your dashboard shows you spent $2,000 on ads to achieve that. 10,000 divided by 2,000 is your 5x ROAS.
Looks spectacular.
But let's apply the true margin we just figured out. Suppose you have a tight margin on this specific product line. Your COGS, shipping, and processing fees eat up 85% of that revenue.
Okay, so 85% of the $10,000 in revenue goes to just delivering the product.
Right.
That's $8,500 out the door.
Leaving you with $1,500 in gross as profit.
Yeah.
But remember your dashboard. You spent $2,000 on ads to get those sales.
Oh, wow. So you take the $1,500 you made, subtract the $2,000 you paid to Google, and you are $500 in the hole.
You didn't make a profit at all.
You spent $2,000 to intentionally lose $500.
You literally paid the platform for the privilege of losing money. That is the revenue mirage in action.
That is just a brutal realization. You could be aggressively scaling your ad budget, hiring new staff, thinking you are building an empire because the dashboard told you that you were winning.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you are just digging a deeper and deeper financial grave.
And if we connect this to the broader strategy, this is exactly why relying on ROAS is fundamentally flawed for business operators.
It's a vanity metric.
Exactly. You have to take the blinders off. You stop optimizing for ROAS and you start optimizing for POAS, profit on ad spend.
POAS.
POAS forces you to inject your true margin into the equation before it tells you if a campaign won or lost. It is the only metric that reflects the actual survival of the enterprise.
Okay, so if POAS is the ultimate truth, how do we use it to set our daily budgets? Like now that we know we can't trust the basic revenue numbers, how do we calculate the exact amount we are allowed to spend to acquire a customer without going bankrupt?
This requires a clear decision framework.
Yeah.
The mathematics of survival demand that you find what is known as the hard ceiling, or the break-even CPA.
And CPA stands for cost per acquisition, right?
Right, the total ad dollars spent to acquire one paying customer.
So the absolute maximum amount we can pay the platform to hand us a buyer.
Exactly. And the formula for this is beautifully simple. Once you have your real numbers, it is your AOV, your average order value, multiplied by your true margin percentage.
Okay.
So if your cart value is $100 and your real margin after all COGS and fees is 50%, your break-even CPA is $50.
A $50 mark is the red line.
Yes.
If your ad costs creep up and hit this number, you are literally working for free. You are executing all the heavy lifting of running a business, managing inventory, dealing with customer service, physically shipping products, but you are taking $0 home.
Zero.
You have become an unpaid middleman, taking your customers' money and routing it directly to Google's bank account.
And operating at the red line is exhausting. It's totally unsustainable. You absolutely must know where that cliff edge is so you can intentionally steer away from it.
So what should our target be then? If we can't spend $50, where is the sweet spot? The notes mention a safety margin concept here known as the 3-to-1 rule, which essentially aims for a 300% true return, especially when dealing with cold traffic, people who have zero prior relationship with your brand.
The 3-to-1 rule is a fantastic heuristic for maintaining a healthy cash flow. It basically breaks your revenue pie into 3 distinct slices.
Okay.
The first slice goes to cover the cost of the product or service itself, your COGS, manufacturing, and shipping. The second slice goes to pay for the ad spend, compensating the platform for acquiring the customer.
Leaving the final third.
The final third is your actual profit. That is the capital that goes into the bank, pays your overhead, funds your team, and actually allows the business to scale.
Wait, let me push back on this a little bit.
Sure.
Because I look at hyper-competitive markets all the time. Dietary supplements, SaaS platforms, legal tech. Hitting a 300% return on cold day one traffic in those arenas, I mean, it's a pipe dream.
It's incredibly hard.
The click costs are just astronomically high. If you rigidly stick to this 3-to-1 safety net and demand a 1/3 profit on day one, you're going to get completely starved of traffic.
Yep.
Your competitors are consistently outbidding you, sitting at the top of the search results, paying double what you can afford for a click. How are they doing that? Do they just have bottomless venture capital to burn through?
That is probably the most critical question in modern digital marketing. And the answer isn't that your competitors have a secret slush fund of venture capital.
Okay, then what is it?
The answer is what we call the winner's secret. They are outbidding you because they know their LTV, their lifetime value, better than you know yours.
Lifetime value, the third and final number that rules your life.
LTV is arguably the most misunderstood and underutilized metric in advertising. LTV represents the total net profit a customer generates over their entire multi-year relationship with your business.
Multi-year. So we aren't just looking at the first transaction anymore.
Not at all. We are looking at the whole timeline. The competitors who are aggressively outbidding you aren't buying a sale today. They are buying a client for tomorrow.
Which brings up an absolute rule in auction-based marketing. He who can spend the most to acquire a customer wins.
It is an ironclad law of the digital auction. If you only look at the first sale, you might calculate that a customer is worth $150 to you.
Right.
Based on your margin, you decide you cannot spend more than $50 to acquire them. But your competitor has deeply analyzed their historical data.
They did the math.
Exactly. They know that over the course of the next 12 months, that same customer will return and purchase 3 more times, making them worth $1,000 in long-term net profit.
Wow.
Armed with that hidden future value, they will happily spend $200 to acquire that customer today. They will outbid your $50 cap every single time, dominate the search results, and still be wildly profitable in the long run.
To really cement this, let's look at an incredible strategic move utilizing this exact math from the notes. Imagine a local law firm running search ads for people looking to draft a will and testament.
Okay, classic scenarios.
They are paying Google $200 in ad spend to acquire one signed client. Now, the law firm only charges $500 to draft a basic will.
Let's run the day one math on that scenario.
Okay. They bring in $500 in revenue. They spent $200 on the ad. That leaves $300.
Right.
But the lawyer actually has to do the work, draft the document, review it, conduct the client meeting. If we calculate the lawyer's hourly rate, that time easily costs the firm $300.
Which means the firm breaks even. They made zero profit on that transaction.
And a generic marketer, someone who doesn't understand LTV and unit economics, would panic.
Absolutely panic.
They would look at that zero profit transaction and immediately turn the ads off. They'd conclude that Google ads are a waste of money because they are working for free.
But a true operator looks at the exact same scenario and sees a gold mine.
Because the operator looks at the historical data. They know that 20% of the people who come in for a basic $500 will are eventually going to need a highly complex $5,000 estate planning package within the next 3 to 5 years.
Yes.
The firm doesn't need to run another ad to get that premium business. They already own the relationship. They have the client's trust.
And that back-end math fundamentally changes the front-end strategy.
Totally. When you factor in that 20% conversion rate to the $5,000 package, the true LTV of that initial will lead isn't $500.
No.
The blended long-term value is actually $1,500. And once the partners at the law firm realize this hidden math, their entire perspective shifts.
They stop worrying about click costs.
Exactly. They stop worrying about whether they are paying $10 or $30 for a click today. Their new operational goal is to buy every single will and testament search in their entire geographic radius.
They want to dominate the auction.
Yes, and squeeze out every competitor because they know the back-end math makes them financially unstoppable.
It completely reframes the objective. You're no longer competing on the sheer price of the first click. You're competing on the quality and monetization capability of your underlying business model.
So, bringing all of this together for you listening, the mechanics are brutally clear. Google ads, Meta ads, any option-based system, they are math games disguised as marketing platforms.
100%.
Success is not about having the prettiest ad creative or the most clever copywriting. It is entirely about having the sharpest math. This unit economics framework, knowing your true average order value, calculating your actual gross margin, and deeply understanding your lifetime value, this is the foundation of your fortress.
And without that mathematical foundation, your fortress will crumble the very second click. Prices rise. And they always rise.
They always do.
If you do not know your max CPA, if you haven't calculated your red line, you are quite literally operating as a tourist in the auction. You are wandering around the marketplace, handing your capital over to the locals who understand the rules, completely oblivious to the game being played around you.
Yeah.
Whether you are scaling a multi-million-dollar operation or just trying to comprehend how the modern digital economy actually functions, these three numbers dictate who wins and who loses on the internet.
It fundamentally changes how you view the internet. You start looking at every sponsored result on your screen differently, wondering what the hidden LTV math is behind the company willing to pay to be at the top of your feed right now.
You start seeing the underlying code of the digital economy.
You really do. But, exploring this math also leads to a pretty wild conclusion, and this is the thought I want to leave you with today to mull over.
Okay.
We established the golden rule. He who can spend the most to acquire a customer wins.
Right. Because the winner understands their lifetime value perfectly and bids accordingly.
But think about the logical end game of that philosophy. Let's say you operate in a highly competitive market. You do the hard work, you figure out your LTV perfectly, you calculate your margin, and you know you can bid exactly up to your absolute maximum break-even point, your red line, to aggressively win market share.
A sound strategy.
Sure, but what happens when your competitor does the exact same thing? What if every single major player in your industry gets perfectly efficient at this math?
Oh, wow.
They all calculate their LTV and they all bid right up to their red line just to win the customer away from you.
The auction basically becomes a mathematical arms race.
An arms race where everyone is voluntarily bidding away all of their future profit just to secure the click today. If every business bids up to their maximum break-even point, doesn't Google ultimately capture 100% of the profit margin of the entire industry?
That is, yeah.
Yeah.
The platform extracts all the surplus value. The house always wins.
If that is the ultimate endgame of a perfectly efficient auction, where flawless math just hands all your hard-earned margin over to the platform, Maybe the ultimate winning strategy isn't just learning how to play the auction better.
Right.
Maybe the real strategy is figuring out how to build a business model that doesn't rely on the auction battlefield at all.
It forces you to ask, how do you build organic leverage so you don't have to just rent your customers from a platform?
Exactly. Something to think about the next time you're reviewing your dashboards. Because as we learned today, if you don't know your numbers, you're just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Yeah.
But if you do know your numbers, you might just realize it's time to build a completely different kind of ship.